Hi, I'm Annie Leadham, and that's a picture of me with Olivia Newton-John the night before she changed my life. In a few minutes, you'll find out how Olivia and my dad played a huge role in helping me to become the most respected online PR expert in the world and put me in continual contact with more celebrities, authors, and experts than I can count in a career that has spanned nearly 2 decades. Keep watching because not only will you learn about how Olivia Newton-John changed my life, but by the end of this video, you will know how to brand yourself as a precision expert in your field and get your content the attention it deserves. Because I'm going to unlock my head and give you the content most PR pros would charge thousands for. Also, I have a very special announcement at the very end of this video, and it could be worth more than $2,000 to you. Just let me give you a fair warning though. I don't know how long this video can remain online, because what I'm about to tell you is the kind of thing PR pros and agents take to their graves. And I'm giving away so much that is the backbone of how to create expert stars that I may end up making this a paid presentation. So watch this now while it's still online and it's still free. You may think you know how a person goes from passionate seeker of knowledge to author and expert. I can guarantee you that you have never seen these 3 proprietary professional branding and market tips before. What I'm about to share with you is not normally available to the general public, and not even to most authors and clients who have already spent as much as $1,000 an hour to get professional PR guidance. So prepare to be stunned by what I reveal to you today. One of my tips is so exclusive and groundbreaking, it could change how you think about your branding and even how you see yourself forever. Remember, you could use what you learn here today to create and expand your demographic and brand impact without spending thousands of dollars for guidance and thousands more for content placement. And I will give you some of my best demographic and expert placement secrets that could make sure your ideas are shared with exactly the people who need them most. More easily, with less time and expense, and in a way that's actually a lot of fun too. First, I need to tell you a story. It is a story that's difficult for me to share. Yet it's a story you really need to hear because it will do more to help you understand what's at the core of great branding and PR. Deal? I wasn't always a successful online PR rep, contributing to books, helping clients snag bylines on Huffington Post, and appearances on Dr. Oz and The Today Show. In fact, after my first brush with placing talent, I swore I would never do it again. I was just a kid with aspirations to perform and spending all the time I could around the most talented singers and dancers I knew. My best friend, Cindy, could be considered my first client. And after the horror of what happened, I swore I would never meddle in other people's careers again. I'm going to share the story with you, even though I cannot tell it without feeling the grief and the guilt, just like it was yesterday. Sharing this with you may be one of the hardest things I've ever done. It's important for you to understand why I now take what I do so seriously, and I am utterly committed to helping every person I can. Seriously, if I hadn't lived it, I don't know that I would believe it myself. And I apologize in advance because it could upset you. But it can be in our moments of complete darkness that we learn the most about ourselves. And that is certainly what happened for me. Cindy was just about my favorite person in the whole world when I was young, and one of the most talented too. I remember watching her flip aerials all the way down the street between her house and mine while we laughed at the sheer joy of just being young and alive. I remember the pride, the joy, and the absolute love Cindy and I shared when, after years of me urging her on, she became a superstar. Helping Cindy showed me that I had a great eye for talent and a great talent for talking people into doing things. And it is these skills that I still use every day to gain my clients an international presence, and allowed me to take another friend, a special education teacher, and help her give the platform that turned her into a highly sought-after parenting and media expert. And it has led me to the amazing life and career I have now, because I didn't just help Cindy realize her dreams. She helped me to discover a dream I didn't even know I had. But not until I had made my peace with what happened to Cindy, and not until my dad and Olivia helped me start to recover. To this day, the folks in my hometown are so proud of Cindy and miss her so much that we swap photos and stories and remember her birthday every year. A birthday she can never celebrate again. You see, I know that for all my hopes of being the next Olivia Newton-John, that Cindy was the real star. She could sing, dance, act, and look like an angel. She was the most amazingly talented gymnast I'd ever seen. So it made perfect sense to me that she'd find a venue where she could shine, and I found it for her. It took me years to convince her, and finally one day when she was all of 19, Cindy finally took a very big chance by auditioning for the greatest show on earth, Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus. Now this was before Cirque du Soleil, and if you wanted a venue for aerial work, gymnastics, trapeze, and the like, Ringling was the only show on earth. Not only did Cindy land a spot, she landed the center ring as the first American performer ever to be featured as a soloist for Ringling Brothers. I was only a teenager still myself, but I knew this is what I was meant to do. Put talented people into the proper venue to showcase their talents and bring them to the world. I remember it was late one Wednesday night, days before Christmas. Cindy was working on part of her act before coming home for the holiday, and we couldn't wait. I can't remember what I was doing when the phone rang, but that shrill bell still jingles in my head. When you're really close to friends, sometimes you just know things. And I knew that something terrible had happened before I even heard the sobs in my friend's voice who called. Cindy and I had a lot in common. One of those things was a serious commitment to excellence. And because she'd been away for 2 weeks, as soon as she got under the big top, she decided to rehearse. Now, if you've ever gone to the circus, you know the performers do not typically use safety gear when they do their acts. They're actually not allowed to. And Cindy, being a perfectionist, decided that day, since she was just brushing up on her routine, she didn't need to use the rehearsal loops. My dear friend plummeted from her aerial perch at the top of her tent and landed on her head. She was rushed to the best local hospital and remained in a coma for days. And then she died. My dear, sweet, talented friend was gone forever, and I helped put her in that tent. The only way I could live with myself at all was to stop performing and to swear I would never push another person to live their dreams again. I fell into a depression, and no one could convince me that I was not partly responsible for the horrifying death of my best friend. My parents were beside themselves. They were grieving too, as was our whole family. But I was in a whole other place. I withdrew from everyone, and I stopped caring about everything but my sadness and guilt. After a few months, my dad, who has always been my hero, decided enough was enough. His name was Ed. He racked his brain for what he could do to snap me back to life. The day of my birthday finally came, and I was a mess. My dad knocked on my door. He sat down on the edge of my bed and held up tickets to see Olivia Newton-John perform in a city a few hours from us. He'd booked hotels and everything. 2 months before, when Cindy was alive, I would have been over the moon. Olivia to this day was one of my greatest inspirations. But Dad had to talk me into going. He did, of course, and that's how I find myself just a few feet from my singing idol. As it has always done, Olivia's music let me forget my grief and my worry and my guilt for a while. And I got to meet her after the concert. That's where the photo came from, and it is a treasured possession, because Dad wasn't done yet. Early the next morning, he woke me up and drove me to an amazing estate I'd never seen. "I believe this is where she's staying," he said. And just as I started to open my mouth, Olivia Newton-John came zipping around the corner on a bicycle. To the day he died, Dad swore he did not and could not have planned it, and yet it was like a scene from a movie. Amazingly, she seemed to recognize us because she stopped and started chatting with us right there on the street. And I am so embarrassed to say the whole awful story just came out. There I was in front of my idol, practically speechless, crying like a baby. She was very compassionate and understanding, and she asked me a question. What would Cindy say to you if she could, right now? Have you ever had that moment where you start laughing through your worst tears? Because that's what happened. Because I knew what Cindy would have said to me right then and there. First, she would have delivered a swift kick to my behind and said, "Looky here, kiddo, you have a whole life to live, and now you have to do it for both of us. You didn't let me quit, and I won't let you either." We had a long trip home, and Dad and I did a lot of talking, and I did some crying too. But I felt lighter, a bit freer, and definitely determined to live a great big life that made as much of an impact on the world as I could. For Sydney. Would I have been able to say that if Dad hadn't engineered that second meeting? I don't know, but I'm a big believer in fate. And Ed and fate were in cahoots that day, and it wouldn't be the last time either. I pretended to sleep in the car and turned my back to him so he couldn't see me silently cry, because I was so very grateful for him, for Cindy, and for Olivia. And what happened at the concert set me on the path to who I am today. I knew with a lot of work and the right access, I was smart and driven enough to be a superstar publicist. The good news for you is this. Not only did I become that superstar publicist, I discovered the secret to creating celebrity experts in every niche. I'll share how I did it and still do it every day in just a few. So keep watching. So now you know the truth. I've gone from naive dreamer to heartbroken, guilt-ridden hermit and come out the other side ready to live for two. And by putting in the time and effort, I discovered an almost foolproof blueprint. A system that has allowed me to turn authors, speakers, coaches, and educators from every walk of life into bona fide precision experts. Sought after by major news outlets, talk shows, and publishers, and to give them their own spotlight in the center ring. I'm able to provide for these experts the platform to gain the attention of the most selective editors and producers. Sought after by major news outlets, talk shows, and publishers, and so popular they become their own expert brands. The system I've developed are so powerful, they've turned me into one of those people. You know, the ones that all the talent is trying to get access to? Yep, that's who I am now. If only they knew, right? Obviously, the information I have developed that has gotten my clients on major networks, put their bylines on everything from BeliefNet to Huffington Post, and increased their exposure by as much as 100-fold, has made many of them wealthier and more respected than they ever dreamed, and allowed